So listen. Okay. Does anyone really hate when someone does that to them? That vexing, irritating command to listen. So listen. I forbid myself from doing this because it's so irritating to me, and probably irritating to a lot of people. My guess is that's because none of us want to be told to listen like a child because we already believe that we are. And therein you have the problem. We do believe we are listening, but most often we are doing a form of it, but we are not performing that listening skill very well. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the most annoying, according to me, listener habits and some techniques that we can use to strengthen our performance as a listener. Part of the problem is that we all know, deeply know inside, that we all stink in some way as being a listener. To some degree or another, we all know. And we blame ourselves many times, but this is the world we live in. It is full of distractions and stimulation, and our brains are rife with overloaded circuits, and this is what we live in. This is what we face. So you're not going to hear blah, blah advice from me, which, as you know, I hate that. I don't preach it. I don't practice it. My leaders don't have time for that. So I want to propose to you that part of the reason why we don't make advancements in our skills as a listener is because we get defeated. We know that we aren't good in certain areas, and we have this ideal vision of what we would look like as the perfect listener. And that's part of the problem, is that the enemy of progress is the idea that perfect even exists. There is no such thing. The best listeners are usually paid to listen, like therapists and counselors, and even they will struggle. But when you're paid to just extract what the person is saying, there's an added incentive. Well, I would suggest that there are incentives that we can use that will coax and motivate our brains in the direction of progress, not perfect. And we've all been told the common advice on how to be a more active listener, and we've tried to apply it. And a lot of times that has left us feeling further defeated, or we shelf it because our brain doesn't like anything that is abstract. It doesn't know how to action on it. And so the common advice typically leaves our mind with this idea, you need to improve your listening skills. Okay, that's abstract. I'm going to put that in the hall closet of my mind until I understand more specifically what he or she is telling me to do. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I want to put my finger on and expose, according to me, in my opinion, the top 10 most irritating, most annoying listener habits, and then a few simple pieces of advice as to how we can move the needle on progress, how we can all improve, beginning right where we are, our listening skills. So this is my top 10 list. You probably have your own, but and we all will hear and see ourselves in one or more, or maybe all of these. So the first one, the selective listener. The person who only hears what they want to hear because it goes along with their narratives, their ideology, what they already believe. It advances what they already think about the world or about whatever it is. They are selective to tune in and out what doesn't go along with what they want to hear. The selfish listener. The person who only listens when it pertains to them, something that they are responsible for, something that they need to know. And then in the meetings, you can almost see once they've done doing their part, they turn off and they, mentally leave the meeting, but their bodies are still present. So the selfish one, who's really only listening to what pertains to them. The spotty listener. This is the person who comes in and out, and you can they look like they might be listening, and then they're not listening, and then they lose chunks of what you're saying, and then you have to repeat and go back, and they miss your point. It's like a Wi-Fi signal that goes on and off. It is super annoying. Then the Vane listener. This is the person who basically tries to turn everything into a discussion about them. They'll use an example that you're talking about. Oh yeah, I can relate to that. So that happened to me. And they'll take hostage almost every topic to somehow make it about them. That's the Vane listener. And then there's the guesser. This is the person who jumps in assuming that they know where you're going with it. This is the person that you want to say, this is not charades. Stop guessing. Let me finish. Oh, I find myself very much guilty, if not criminal, of this one. And the guesser hears what they assume and jumps in accordingly. The noisy listener, the person who, wow, yeah, I get it, sure, yeah, makes sense. And you're thinking, I haven't even gotten to my point. You don't even know what I'm saying. The noisy, too many, too early verbal affirmations can be very annoying. The impatient listener, what's your point? Bottom line, get to the end. Tell me why you're here. What do you want? The opinionated listener. Oh, I know the answer. Oh, I already know that. Oh, that's simple. Oh, yep. I know exactly what to do. And they kind of push and direct with their opinions. The flat listener. The person who has such a flat affect and inscrutable eyes that you don't know what's going on under the waters of their face. Could be friendly, could be foe, shark, dolphin, I don't know, it's under the waters of their face, and they are flat. And then there's the double standard listener, the one that expects what they do not give. They expect your full attention, but they do not give it. And then the last one, so that was the 10th. 11th, the bonus would be the poser listener, the one who pretends that they're listening. Yeah, but you can just tell that they are fair, their face is there, their eyes might be there, but they are not there. So I'm sure you have your own list, but those would be the top 10. Now here are 5 pieces of simple advice. First, we just did, which is using simple awareness to extinguish bad behaviors. And what I mean by that is, I said we try to improve our listening, but we keep it so abstract. I need to be a better listener. I need to stop interrupting. Well, what kind of interrupting? As I just showed with my top 10 list, there's multiple kinds of interrupting. Again, you're leaving that as an abstract concept for your brain. It won't action on it, doesn't like it. So just by what we did, really reflecting with precision, with fine-tuned thinking, what kind of habits do I need to change? What kind of interrupter am I? You will put it into greater focus for your brain. And then just the simple awareness of doing that, bringing it to the forefront of your attention with fine-tuned clarity will help extinguish that bad behavior. How do I know that? Because you don't go around chewing with your mouth open or blowing gum bubbles or constantly clicking your pen in meetings, because you already know your brain has labeled those as specific no-nos. Those are bad manners, right? Because it can see it with precision. We'll do the same thing with these listening habits. Bring simple awareness to extinguish those bad behaviors and watch how your brain will help you avoid them. The second piece of advice, don't pretend if you really cannot listen, if you cannot bring your best stewarding of that person's request for your attention. Don't pretend, confess it and ask. So what that means is, someone might come to you, hey, can I run this by you? And you might say to them, I would love to, and I really want to give this my attention, but if I don't get out these 3 emails in the next hour, my boss is going to have my backside. So can I come by your office at the end of the day or first thing tomorrow morning? Don't pretend. Confess that you can't listen and ask or renegotiate for a time when you can be a better listener. You can be a better partner to that individual. And don't forget, if you say you're going to come back at a different time, you must do it. Third piece of advice, listen like your reputation depends on it, because it does. These are defining qualities. If you think about the people in your inner circle and you ask yourself, are they or are they not a good listener? You probably can answer that quickly, because it is a highly observable, defining quality. So listen to people like your reputation depends on it. Do you want others' trust and respect? Then earn it through your listening. Fourth, listen like your relationships depend on it, because they do. People give their real self to real listeners. They give their partial self to partial listeners, and they give their fake self to fake listeners. So keep that in mind. Your relationships depend on how you show up. Again, more motivation and incentive for your brain. And then finally, The proof of good listening is remembrance. It isn't just that you show physically those qualities, it is that you can remember something from what they said. Isn't that right? Like academia, that's how they prove that you were listening in class, that you got the concept. They test you. So tell your brain, I'm going to be tested. I need to remember at least 2 things that I can discuss with this person when they're done talking to me. So listen for remembrance, at least 2 things, and aim your brain by saying, you have to be capable of discussing this when they're done. And watch your brain wake up, straighten up its back, and pay attention because you've aimed it accordingly. So this is my advice. Listen to that list, maybe go back over it, listen again, take some notes, take that abstract, make it specific and fine, visualize what that looks like, the bad to the good, and then don't even try for perfect. You're not going to. None of us are. This is the world we live in. This is how our brains are wired now. We just need to move the needle and make progress. Because in the end, the most important leadership activity you will do on any given day is to listen.